Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am Rob Phelan from ChooseFI Foundation. I am joined by Stephen, and our guest for tonight is Courtney Hale from Super Money Kids. We are going to be talking about activities that you and your family can do that are budget friendly, first off. So we're looking for things that are free, easy to do, don't take a lot of planning or preparation potentially. And then also on the other side, what are activities that you can do or that your kids can do that can encourage a FI mindset? So trying to build basic money skills, habits, mindsets, beliefs, values, all of those kind of different legs of the stool, table, whatever metaphor is, that build our kids up to where we want them to be as responsible managers of money. So Stephen, can you tell us a little bit about you? For anyone who doesn't know you haven't been around in a while.
I haven't. I think I've missed the last 3 or 4 videos. I've been out in the crowd heckling you. I'm Steven. I'm active duty Air Force pilot out of Philadelphia, working with the ChooseFI Foundation. I write adult financial literacy information, and I think most importantly for tonight, I have a brand new 10-year-old boy in the family, our first kid. And so I am actually in receive mode tonight to hear what you two dads do with your kids and how you're like working in those money lessons.
Fantastic. And Courtney, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I am the chief hope dealer of Knowledge Bank and Super Money Kids. Super Money Kids is a brand that's committed to improving the financial literacy of young people. We're the creators of the Super Money Bank, which we'll talk about in a second, and the Super Money Curriculum, which is a digital program that introduces the world of personal finance to elementary and middle school age students. We're out of Nashville, Tennessee, and excited to talk a little bit tonight.
All right. Is Nashville the home of Dave Ramsey?
Nashville is the home of Dave Ramsey.
It is. It's like ground zero for personal finance, I guess. Is it?
It is. It really. I mean, literally. This place is Dave Ramsey crazy. He's of all the many music stars and pop stars and writers, right up there at the top of the list in terms of level of fame is Dave Ramsey.
Well, it's great. And I think I've heard of a lot of personal finance writers, bloggers, content creators who come out of Tennessee, and I think even more specifically Nashville. So it seems to be a great kind of epicenter for content creators and obviously musicians too. But yeah, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. And I think we met probably a month or two ago at this point. We connected just to talk about what each of us was doing. I was super interested in the Super Money Kids program and what you are offering for kids. And I'm really excited for you to share a bit about that tonight. But first off, what on earth is a chief hope dealer? I don't normally see that in like the normal, management structure.
Yeah, so it came about for two reasons. I tell people all the time, I am the most accidental entrepreneur that you could ever meet. And because of that, some of the more traditional titles that you see in organizations, I just never really felt like they fit who I was. I never wanted to be viewed as the boss or extra important for whatever reason, but I am leading the pursuit of hope for young people. And, a lot of the things that we talk about in financial literacy, they're all about, habits, but we really believe that we're trying to shift mindsets and value systems. And in all things, I wanted to leave the attention on that versus, who I am with the organization. And so Chief Hope Dealer just fit.
Perfect. And yeah, I like that you didn't put some sort of like, I'm the chief executive officer. Like it doesn't fit the organization as well. And I feel like in the ChooseFI Foundation, we kind of have avoided, I think, all titles, Stephen, I would say. We're just kind of like winging it as we go. But yeah.
We are all equally doer of stuffs.
Yes. Yeah, just like Stephen, Rob, Danny, Mandy, doer of things. Like that's pretty much what it comes down to. Valerie's probably our most decorated person. She is our chief newsletter editor.
Yeah.
But what we want to talk about tonight is the activities that we can do, particularly for families, that are going to be encouraging kids to develop this mindset that's going to help them to be better money managers as adults. Because we know, like, when kids are starting out, we're not trying to teach them I suppose the money basics, and we're not trying to coach them into like saving for retirement right now. Like we're trying to build something else a little bit deeper, some more personality traits, habits that will eventually turn into money skills. What do you do, Courtney, for kind of that young age group? Because I know you said you have a daughter who's almost 6 or almost 6.
She is 6.
She is 6. So what have you done so far? Because your daughter is older than both of our kids at the moment.
Yes. So, one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have about me is that when it comes to talking to kids about money, I have it figured out in my own household. And to be perfectly honest, we work through this every day, and I laugh about it with my daughter a lot. But we try different things, and we figure out what works. Of course, she has been the in-house pilot group for everything Super Money Kids. And so she's completed those programs, and she knows everything about the banks front and back. And she's done it multiple times. And initially, like, she was really the motivation behind us creating the banks, and for her helping to understand the idea of a plan for your money. And that was great. Initially we just had like 3 containers. It was like a Pringles can, um they all had odd shapes, but they weren't the same. I can't remember what, maybe it was like a big box of M&Ms or something like that. And she became really intrigued in the concepts of save, spend, and share. So that's like how we started with her. We also just talk about things. We went out today and we were school shopping, and she wanted to look at everything that had absolutely nothing to do with school. And so it was a great opportunity for us to, like, hey, our plan for today is to identify the things that we need to get for school, right? Some of the more fun things that we've done, this was something that we did in our own household, but we created a fun little game around the Super Money Kid banks that was awesome, and she absolutely loved. And that was one of the activities that we designed during the peak of COVID in 2020, or the beginning of COVID in 2020. One of the things that she's really interested in right now, and it's been her idea, and I'm following her lead, but she's really interested in some of the prepaid debit cards, some of the debit cards for kids. And so there are 2 that we're really looking at. The one that she likes the most, I think, is the
green light
card.
Mm-hmm.
And she's crazy about it because you can actually put the kid's face on it. And so nothing makes her happier than to have her own debit card with her picture on it. And so I think that that's cool. And there's another one out there that is called Goal Setter.
Okay.
And Goal Setter, in addition to the card, it has some other like fun financial literacy games and activities that you can play along with it. And so it's more than the card itself. And so our next activity is going to be around choosing the right card for us. And then us having the conversation about how money goes from the Super Money Kid bank behind me to actually being on her debit card, and then also talking about the differences between the debit card and the credit card, because that's also a question that's coming up. And so to answer your question, it's just a little bit of trial and error. Some people, read, books. Books are a fantastic way to introduce kids to the world of money, because they're going to be into the story, and within those stories there are all types of themes that are available there. So you just gotta figure out what your recipe is with your kid.
Yeah, and I don't want to mispronounce this name. I would say Diadem asks, is she a teen? And you said no, she is 6 years old and is showing an interest in a debit card, which is pretty awesome. I know my 10-year-old or maybe 9-year-old nephew just got a green light card. Actually, maybe is there another brand out there? Is there one that starts with H? Is it like Harvey card or something like that?
There's several out there.
Yeah. But parents are doing allowance through that card, and he's able to use that to spend it as he sees freely. So yeah, this is definitely getting more into a modern age version of how we're going to teach our kids about money. But you started with the bank, And I would love to know, like, what was the overarching goal behind creating that bank? And would you mind showing us as well? Like,
Yeah, sure. So the Super Money Bank, it has, first, it's branded with our Super Money Heroes, which is a concept that we're developing beyond the banks. We've incorporated the theme into curriculum, and we're doing some other creatives with that now. But it has three parts. Each part aligns with what we call a money habit. So there's our save habit, our spend habit, and our share habit. And to introduce these concepts to children, we say we save to create opportunities for our future selves. We spend on our needs and wants, and we share to create opportunities for others. And as they earn money or receive money for whatever it is, it empowers them to plan out what they want to do with the money, where they want it to go, and which bank. And it helps alleviate some of the stress and anxiety that many adults feel when it comes to planning out what they want to do with their money. In addition to that, we define all of the money habits on the back. You probably can't see that really well through video. We also provide some terms or some other associated um, terminology that goes along with the bank. We have some reminders on the inside of the banks that remind families to set a goal for saving every week, figure out who you want to share with, and it's just a way, like, that every family can make it their own. Like, one of the things that we've done was we would do Share Sunday, and it was a lot easier when we were going to fellowship. But Share Sundays, wherever you worship, or regardless of what your beliefs are, you can have a day to where you just do something for other people. And so we created Share Sunday in our household. There's a really good friend of mine that designed a concept. His name is Leon Scott, and he designed this incentive program called Q Coins. And it's another great way for families to engage kids with money. And they designed an incentive program to where if his children did certain things, they would receive a Q coin. And then what Leon did is he took his Q coin concept and paired it with the Super Money Bank, and it created this really amazing experience for his family at home. And so the bank is designed to teach kids about money. It's a visual reminder to them to be financially responsible. It's cool, it's colorful, it's everything they're engaging that they would like. But they get to own it, like it's theirs. And after a while, you start to see how the young person takes ownership of their banks. And then it's not so much of the parent trying to get the kid to engage, it becomes the kid getting the parent to engage. And through the bank, it's made for a really easy way to introduce like entrepreneurship, because kids have to figure out how they're going to make money to put in their bank. And so yeah, it's a lot that you can do with the banks, and we just love the entire experience.
yeah, I mean, I think that sounds wonderful. Stephen, I think I saw you unmuting there. Did you want to jump in?
I was just gonna say, like, this is something that I think we say a lot, but it bears repeating, right? Like, why is this so important? Like, it's because almost everything we do in life, you have a mentor, you have a coach. We go to school to learn math, right? Like, if you want to learn how to play basketball, you have a coach. But our generation, right? Like, I know that Rob and I have talked about this and coordinate. Like, I'm gonna take a guess here and say that, like, you're part of our generation. Like, nobody taught us this when we were young, right? Like, we had to figure this out as adults. And like, the difference that it makes starting this early, like as a parent, as an uncle, as a family member, or just a mentor somehow, is so important. Like, and these little things, whether it's a Pringles can or the colorful bank, right? Like, the concepts are not hard. You just gotta start weaving them into daily life. Just the little pieces of it, right? It's not like this big conversation that you got to eat an elephant. It's just making it fun and a part of like everyday life. And so that's why I just love so much what you're doing there, making it simple and just like, let's talk about it. Let's have a day where it's part of giving and the savings and the goals. It's so important. I just I really love seeing like all the different flavors of how our generation has started to, you know, say like we're gonna change this, we're gonna do something different and make an impact to the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really just think that it comes from a spirit of being tired and feeling like you've been taken advantage of and given empty promises. And you know, there's a generation that came along, was like, you know, this is enough. Like, we have to take matters into our own hands, and you know, we'll figure it out. And that's what's happening. We've also made the decision that no other generation has done, and said, hey, we're going to have open conversations about money. We're not going to be afraid of it. We're not going to be ashamed of it. You know, we're it's not going to be taboo. It's like, we're going to do it because our future depends on it. And you know, we always talk about like the cost to be the boss. Like, the cost to be the boss now is the highest that it has ever been in the history of this country. And you know, you gotta take some strategic steps in order to get there. And so like, I'm thankful that we've reached this place, because it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It's definitely exciting to see, you know, with all of the different content creators out there, different programs that are available. So it was totally killing that name earlier. It's actually Dee, who was on from Kids Money Academy. But again, another, so Dee is on Instagram, really great personality to follow. Another great content provider who is trying to help kids do better with money. And there are so many of us out there now that are really just motivated to help kids do better. And we're really focusing on kids because we know that if we can help change the lives of kids in that trajectory at an early age, we save them from all of that hurt and painful experience that comes mostly in our 20s and early 30s, where we just mismanaged money. We didn't really know what we were doing. We got handed loans in some cases. We got access to credit. We had the opportunity to make poor financial decisions, which at the end of the day is our own decision. Like, we had the choice. It wasn't forced upon us, but we were given opportunities without a ton of education or information behind it. And I feel like student loans are a prime example of that, where there's not a lot of restrictions to what you can sign up for, and that can really weigh you down moving into the future. But Courtney, just going back to the bank, one thing that I think eludes a lot of parents, and is the question mark that's going to hang over this for me too, is how do I get my kid excited about using it? Like, how are they not just going to look at it as like an empty Pringles can up on the shelf, and like instead say, I want to fill that empty Pringles can with money?
Yes. So when you get the bank, you also get like this little quick start postcard, and it's like 5 steps to getting started. Do these 5 things. One of those 5 steps is give your kid freedom within limits. Okay, like, don't give them the bank and say, here are all the rules. This is what you have to do. Do this. You know, you don't want to make it seem like it's an additional chore for them. You want them to know that it's theirs and it's for their money. You want to explain to them the money habits so they know where to put their money, but let them have it. And I have not had a situation to where a parent or a family has been like, yeah, my kid's not into it. They're not curious. That has not come up. When you give it to them, I'd say, so the very first experience that we had with the bank was a prototype. And I was having lunch with some friends, having coffee with some friends. We were sitting on a patio. And I wanted them to see the prototype. So at this time, it had a little bit of the design, but you couldn't put money in it. It was just really, really early. And we had it sitting on the table as we talked. And while we were talking, I saw 2 women walk by with a little kid, and had this experience not happen, I wouldn't even remember this, but they walk out and they leave. 2 minutes later, one of the women come back and they said, hey, what is that on the table? Because my nephew saw it and he's going crazy in the car because he wants it. He didn't know it was a bank. He didn't know what it was. He just saw the colors and the characters and he wanted it. And that's pretty much consistently been what we've seen with families when they buy it. And so if you start there, allow the young person to be curious and just follow their lead.
Yeah. And it's not something you can dictate. You can't say like, all right, kids, here's the bank. You're going to put all your money in the savings, no questions asked. Like you can't approach money that way with kids. And Doug Nordman was on last week and he was talking about his experience with his daughter, Carol. And same thing, he found out like, if I try and dictate to her that all of her money is going to go into her college savings account, it's basically like saying I'm confiscating your money, and your kid is going to rebel against that and probably try and spend it before you even know it's there if you do that. So trying to get them to buy into it themselves is a great strategy, and making it fun. It's a colorful box. It's got some creative designs on it. It's very attractive to the age group that we're trying to target, and probably more so than like your standard piggy bank would be. I feel like there are some creative ones out there now where like they're made in the shape of like different characters that kids really identify with. But yeah, if you're just like putting a standard coffee can out there and saying like, hey, fill this with money, let's do it, they might not be as attracted to it as they might be to something like this.
For sure. And we made it engaging, because I do realize that talking about money is difficult even for adults, even if it's with an elementary age kid. And we wanted to do enough for the parents to where it takes the guessing out of it. Like we give you a place to start, we give you some words to use, we give you some reminders, and then from there you can make it whatever you want it to be. And I tell you the thing that I'm most proud of my daughter for, and I hope she's listening, because I hadn't told her this, but the thing that I'm most proud of her for is she keeps up with how much money that she saved. But from there, she sets additional goals. And so it's like, hey, I have, well, I think her number is like $740. I have $740 that I want to get to 1,000. What do I have to do to get to 1,000? And so she likes to wash dishes, and we're about to get back to doing some of our content that we had started a while ago. We're about to start back doing some of that, and I pay her for that. And if she sends out a couple orders or something like that, we'll compensate her for that. But that's been the thing that I've been the most proud of, is like she's tapped in and she wants to do more.
I like that. And just that she wants to earn more money. And I saw someone asking this, or they're commenting. They said, my daughter just participated in a young entrepreneurs event, 3rd year, and has learned a lot about cost profit saving. Like giving your kids the space to be creative and to set their own goals. And then, if you tell them like, hey, you want to buy something you want, that's fine. But you're going to have to find a way to make that money yourself, because we're not just going to hand it to you. And you just give them the keys to the car and say, okay, well, how are you going to make that money? What are some things you can do? What are some things you can try? Are there things around the house? Like, can we start with that maybe, that you as the parent can control, and you can offer opportunities that maybe are something that are paid? And this depends on every family. Every family will do this differently. So please don't feel like this is something you have to do. But some families will give an allowance, and they'll say, okay, your allowance is your base salary, and you get that regardless of what you do, because you're a member of this family, you're a member of this household. There could be chores attached to it or not. Some families have a base salary and there's nothing attached to it. And then they have chores, which can be paid on top of that. So things like washing dishes or doing laundry or whatever is age appropriate at the time. And then for some people, it's chores are what you do to earn your allowance. And then if you want extra money, there are some other tasks you can do that are outside that kind of normal day-to-day stuff that you could do to earn some income. And then as they get older, start offering them the opportunity to go earn outside of the house. So once you feel like they could do something outside the house, like pet sit for someone, or go walk dogs, or go deliver newspapers, or bake cupcakes and sell them door to door, like whatever you want to do, like, or whatever they want to do, you could of course do that. But I think starting in-house is a great way to just encourage some entrepreneurship and let them start meeting those goals they're setting. Stephen?
I love the idea too of pairing this. There's something that I don't remember if it was Doug or Carl or somebody we've had on ChooseFI talking about like the bank of dad. And when they're really young, doing like 100% interest rate for any money they put in the bank. And I always thought that was a really cool idea. Like make it when you're dealing with, youngsters, as in, kind of like your daughter's age, like 6, 8, 10. they're starting to understand some of the math behind it, and they can kind of hang on to these lessons long term, but they're still dealing with small numbers, like making it almost extreme so that it like really sticks. It like makes a significant impact. I also thought it was a cool idea of doing that. And then I know too that Doug always uses this example that he told his daughter early on, like, when you get a car at 16, it's just will match what you save, right? And that is another one of those like nuggets I've just always taken away. But like whenever my kids get old enough, we start talking about cars. Like that's such a fantastic idea of like if there's $100 in a bank that saves, then like not sure what $200 is going to buy us in terms of a car. But if you manage to save $4,000 or $5,000 for a car, like then mom and dad can kind of have the ability to support as well, but like definitely puts the onus on practicing that savings muscle. So I always like some of those things I've heard and picked up, and it just like goes really paired well with the idea of having the like save, spend, give type of a bank for kids.
Yeah, and I think Doug's he did 1% per month for Bank of Carol or Kid Bank or Bank of Mom and Dad, or like whatever name you want to put on that. So yeah, I think in his book he said they did 1% per month, so it was like a 12% annual interest rate, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, encouraging your kids to save. He had a couple other ideas that we might come back to, but I do want to get back to the focus of today's conversation, which was like, what are some other activities that we can do that encourage this kind of mindset for our kids? So let's take like a basic money skill that people don't really realize is a money skill, and that is patience and delayed gratification. How would you do it, Stephen? For little mini Stephen coming up, how are you going to teach him to be patient?
Yeah, that's a good one. You hear about like the classic marshmallow test for kids, I think, which has its place, but just kind of, I think understanding like, hey, we can do something, or we can play with some toys, but like whatever we're doing right now, we're going to focus on that. But then again, like as my kids get older, definitely that, and maybe even coming up with like you're saying, something like the 1% per month, like making it kind of extreme to really highlight the idea of savings and that daily gratification, like putting them together. We're gonna really make it beneficial. Like we have the ability, as the parents, like make it significant and beneficial to have that delayed gratification with the savings.
Like it. Courtney, what would you say? And do you have a tactic that maybe doesn't involve money? Like what's something else we can do that would teach patience?
That's one that I am working on now. So my daughter does great with setting goals. We struggle with patience and delayed gratification. The way that I've tackled it so far has been, around our plan, like having a plan for wherever we're going. That doesn't work too well. As a matter of fact, when you're impatient and you're not good at delayed gratification, the last thing you want to be told is the thing that you want isn't a part of a plan. So I'm trying to figure that out. I think it may come by some exercises that aren't related to money. And I think there are a number of different ways that you could try that. But I'm actually open. My ears are extra open on this one because I like to hear what some other people are doing in terms of practice and patience. I think for kids it's really difficult. For younger kids, and when I say younger, I'm saying maybe younger than 10. Because patience is a skill that comes with maturity, and you just don't have a lot of maturity when you're that young. I think that visuals are really useful. So if we're waiting to do something, it's helpful to have maybe some type of chart or graph showing the progress, or a stop. One of the things that we do is we stopwatch everything. So we'll put on our clock and like, hey, we have this amount of time before we can do this, or this amount of time to do this. That helps because they get the visual of when they're going to be able to do the next thing. That's actually worked out well. But I'm open to some other recommendations. That's a skill that we're working on.
So Are you talking about, because I can kind of see this now, I can see how this would apply. Like, hey, we're gonna go outside and play, but let's do like 10 minutes of cleaning, our putting our toys away, right? It's like we can see the clock, like we know, set a timer, it's nice and loud on the phone. And so they like have that anticipation and that excitement of doing something at a specific time, and that gives them kind of broken up segments of different things.
It's exactly what we do.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
that.
my son is almost 2, and a timer works wonderfully for that. That like he can see us at the timer. We can say like, "Hey, we're going to go do this in X number of minutes," or "You have X number of minutes to do something before we transition to the next thing." And that has definitely helped. That he can see like, okay, we are going to go do this. And I think as parents, you have to make sure that if you say you're going to do something, you have to follow through and do that. You have to build that trust with your kids that if they do put off doing something now till later, it will still happen later. Even if they forget about it and they don't ask you about it, like I think it's still important to come back and say, hey, you wanted to do this. I told you we could do this later after dinner or after we cleaned up. Do you still want to go do that? Because now is a good time. And I think letting kids know that if I wait and I do the task beforehand, or I just wait to the appropriate time, that I can still get that reward of doing the thing I want. And I put the call out to the audience here for like any other strategies on teaching patience. I like the one from Doug Nordman. Again, I keep going back to Doug. He's got some great stuff in his book with Carol. And this is, oh gosh, How to Raise Your Money Savvy Family for Next Generation Fi, I think is the name of the book. I probably still have it like saved in our banners from last week. Yes, I do. So this one, I didn't delete it yet, but it's full of great ideas that Doug and Carol. So Carol is Doug's daughter. So they are kind of tag teaming, going back and forth in this book, talking about what strategies Doug and his wife Marge tried when raising Carol. And Carol's kind of telling the perspective of that worked. And actually, no, that didn't work at all. That was a total mess. So there's a little bit of both going on in there. But he talked about that when you're trying to build patience, or especially around money, because we're going back to a money topic here. What he did with Carol was he tried to ask her for things that she wanted and pinpointed ones that would take at least like maybe 2 weeks worth of allowance to be able to afford. So start with really small savings goals that are just not immediate. So something they want, maybe like if her allowance was $5 a week, the item cost $8 or cost 10, but it would take at least 2 allowances to make it there. And the first conversation was, yeah, you can go blow that $5 now, but if you really want this item, what are you going to need to do? And she'll be like, okay, I'd need to get 2 allowances and I'd have to wait for it. And you wait for it. And then you make sure that you offer that opportunity to go buy it once they have saved that amount of money. And what they might do is decide, well, actually, no, I want to keep saving, especially if there's like a bank of mom and dad situation going on where there's like a 1% interest rate on savings. Or they go and buy the item and they get that gratification of, I waited, I saved, and then I bought, and that's okay too. Like it's not about squirreling money away for retirement when they're 5 years old. Like you think about even college funds, like a 6-year-old, for example. So Courtney's daughter, like college is 3 lifetimes away still. Like that's a long time. They're not motivated to save for college right now, unless like you have built the foundation of like, what is college? What's it about? And they're really into this idea and they want to start saving for it, then maybe you might get some buy-in. But for most of them, it's too far away. It's multiple lifetimes away. You're not going to get that buy-in. So you're going to have to start really small. And then I think his next savings goal was like 3 allowances and then maybe 5. And she kind of kept building and then it built up to a car fund. So she started saving money for her car fund, I think at like 8 years old. So like by 8, that was when the conversation started shifting to like a proper like long-term savings goal. Courtney, any experience there? What have you done like in terms of, or what is your daughter setting her own goals? Like, so how is she setting her goals?
Yeah, right now she's motivated by just the dollar amount. So she's motivated to hit certain milestones in terms of the money. And then she has like a big goal. She really wants to go to South America. And so we're saving up to go to South America one day. I don't know when, but she does do a really good job with different things where she's earning money. We've helped her with that and just put her in positions to be able to sell different products. Like her and her friends, they do a lemonade stand. In the wintertime, they do well, it used to be tot chocolate when they were tots. They're not tots anymore. So they don't have to come up with another creative name for the hot chocolate. They were also, prior to COVID, they would do a seasonal yard sale as well. And so they've done a good job with earning money. And she probably, we've created more opportunities for her than maybe the average kid. But I think something you guys said is really, really important, which is setting attainable goals for the kids and having conversations that are relevant in the short term. Because one of the things about setting a goal is, like, when you feel like it's not attainable, you're not motivated by it. And the same thing applies to the kids. So if you're like, hey, we're going to save, $5 a week for college, and the kid's like, college, they immediately feel like it's an insane amount of time, and they may be discouraged. And so in that instance, you completely just dissuaded them from saving money. And so I think it's really, really important to set goals that are appropriate for the age of the child.
Like, I guess at the end of the day, we don't want kids to associate saving with tedious, like something not fun to do. Like, we want kids to become adults who are like, I like reaching goals. I like saving for stuff that I really want. And I think for many of us in the FI community, or who are into personal finance, like, you get a sense of satisfaction out of reaching different goals and milestones. And if you didn't make finances fun for yourself, it can become a tedious thing to do. And if it is, like, you're always going to be struggling against yourself to actually do it. So we're trying to develop kids that enjoy talking about money, enjoy trying to problem solve and come up with ways to earn money. They like setting goals for themselves and then reaching those goals. That's what we're trying to develop in kids right now, especially in the preteen age range, where there's nothing big they have to save for right now. Like, there's no bills, there's nothing that they have to worry about. We're trying to put the groundwork in for when they hit those teen years, and maybe like, I want to start my own business, or I want to get a part-time job. And now we're talking about a car conversation, or bigger wants like gaming systems, bikes, like big ticket items that you're like, okay, your $5 allowance would take you a long time to get there. We're going to start talking about earning more and managing more money. But we've already laid this great groundwork already. All right, let's go down memory lane. Stephen, what is a game that you played growing up at some point that you think taught you some lesson about money? So, like, computer game, board game. You were what, a Game Boy Color kid?
Like me? Yeah, somewhere in there. Put me on the spot. I'm trying to think now. What? I played a lot of like computer games that were like this is like very nerdy, but like the Red Alert style computer games where you have lots of, you're building. I think today's corollary of that would be kind of maybe a Clash of Clans, something like that, where like you have resources, you have to like grow and collect resources and things like that. And that definitely gave me a concept of like, there are prices to items, and I had to like plant a resource, gather the resource, and then like over time save that resource and invest more in terms of like planting more. I know that's like kind of a disconnect, but like, I do think that was a pretty significant item that I took away from playing video games as a kid.
No, I love that. That reminds me of like an Age of Empires or something like that. Like, that was a game I played growing up. That like, you're mining gold, you're planting trees, you're farming for food, and then like you're creating an in-game currency that you can then use to get what you want. What about you, Courtney? Any games that kind of come to mind when I kind of threw that question out there?
Yeah, so a couple games that I have played that I really, really like. I mean, these are board games, but even today, the Robert Kiyosaki Rat Race game is timeless, and it is phenomenal. It's a lot of fun. That's one. There's another board game that's called the Success Game, and it's very similar to Rat Race in terms of like the objective, but they also add a component around careers and having to have a job that allows you to purchase different assets, and it's really fun. And so when we were doing our in-person workshops with kids in schools and things like that, we would always play those two games.
All right. Is Rat Race the same as Cash Flow? Because I know Kiyosaki did Cash Flow as well. Or are they two different games?
I think that's the same game.
Okay, it's got like a picture of a rat and like a suit on the front of it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that game. I've never played it myself, but it's on my to-do list to find like a used version of that game somewhere, because it's like $70 new on Amazon. Though I heard that there is an online version of it available somewhere.
$70?
I think so. Like, look it up on Amazon. I think it's like $78 something like that for this game. I'm like, come on, Kiyosaki, come on.
I mean, good. I know I didn't pay. I mean, it's been years since I actually had to buy it. But even inflation, I mean, wow. But you know what? I think it does speak to what we were talking about earlier. It's like the demand for more resources to have these conversations, and as society becomes more eager to add fun ways to talk to young people about money, I mean, the demand for these games are going up, and as demand increases, so the prices. So there's the economics lesson, the economics part of today's conversation. But, yeah, wow, I'm shocked.
And I'm sad that Paul Vasey wasn't able to join us tonight, because Paul Vasey is the founder of Cash Crunch Games. So his passion is coming up with fun ways to get kids talking about money and engaging with money. And his board game is called Cash Crunch Junior. And from what I'm hearing, I haven't played it myself yet, but a great way to get your kids engaging with money, talking about different types of purchases and saving habits and those sorts of things. I'm a big fan of Monopoly, like classic Monopoly. Like I have it in my classroom. I play it with my students every single year, twice. So the first time we play it, it's about just cash flow tracking. So we play it and kids have a ledger and they are tracking all expenses, all income. So just getting used to that idea of what's coming in, what's going out. And, as adults, it's a great thing to do. It's where we suggest most people start when they're starting on a personal finance journey. For my teens, so I usually work with high school seniors, that's where I want them to start, is just getting used to tracking cash flow. And something like a Monopoly or an Age of Empires or any of their games pretty much where there's a currency involved, challenge them to just track their cash flow in it and just see okay, where am I spending money? Where's it coming from? And that's a great place to just start a budgeting conversation or making conscious decisions about spending. The second time we play it, I put an hour limit on the game. So that's how you actually finish Monopoly, not in 3 days and without the board being flipped on someone. You put an hour time limit on it and you say the person with the highest net worth at the end of an hour is the winner. So they have to acquire assets. They have to try and avoid liability. So try not to mortgage your properties, try not to run out of money. But you'll look at the trend of the game. In the beginning, everyone's property crazy, buy. And then by the end, we see people stop buying, start conserving what they have, and then trying to build that net worth. And that leads our conversation to risk tolerance and investing over time, what it looks like in the beginning with very aggressive investing versus the end where you get a bit more conservative. And that's a great lesson you can teach from a board game. I think the game of life is up there too for just a good one to kind of talk money around. Any others that come to mind?
Funny. See, it's funny you mentioned the game of life. So our nephews were with us this past week, and we had purchased this little cabin for our bigger extended family a few years ago, and it came with a bunch of old stuff. It came with the entire vault of Disney VHSs, right? Like that kind of stuff hidden away in this cabin. One of the things that it had was the game of life. And I was like, I never in a million years would have purchased a game of life, but there it was stuck underneath the couch somewhere. And so let me think, they're 4 and 6. And so they started to play, and I was in the other room doing something. And my wife and our sister-in-law were reading the cards off, right? And so one of the kids had the card that was oh, you pick the going to college to get a career, right? And then the other one was you go start working. And I did notice the first few cards, it was the kid that went to college was on payday, like you skip payday because you were studying for exams, and then the one that went and was an artist, you know, their payday was $60,000. I was like, man, that's actually surprisingly, you know, a useful topic to talk about. I know that on ChooseFI we talk about this all the time, like actually thinking about and being able to start talking about the ROI of college versus like getting a 4-year head start of, no kidding, like jumping into a trade, and like that break even is quite a ways down the road, and kind of making that decision smartly. It's funny that you mentioned the Game of Life, because that all came out of that game that I kind of, you know, would not have given it credit for in terms of a board game. But I really like your Monopoly Deal house rules. That's I'm gonna steal that one for sure.
And I've seen it with other games too, yeah, where there is like some sort of cash flow system going on that people are tracking. I've seen a version of Monopoly, and this is another teacher to this in the Finlit Fanatics group. So if you are a teacher or you're just a very interested parent, you want to hear what other educators are doing, the group on Facebook is called Finlit Fanatics. And one teacher got rid of all the cash out of Monopoly altogether, and they play off of a ledger system. So you start with whatever the sum of money is. I forget what it is. It's like maybe 3,500 is like when you add up all the bills, that's what you got. And every person has their own ledger, and you actually track the other players as well. So they put 4 people on a board, and you're tracking all of the income and expenses of each person. So there's no cash involved. It's all just on the ledger based. And that's another way just to kind of make sure that everyone's actually balancing together. And it was actually an introduction into what blockchain technology was too, where you're like, nobody has the ability to cheat here because the other people in the game are also tracking the exact same ledger. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's like just a very simple way to introduce, like, this is what blockchain technology is, and cryptocurrency would be what we are using right now. It's a currency that we are all agreeing, this person has this much, this person has this much, this person has this much, and this is what it can buy. Let me see. We had one comment come on here as well. So Brendan said Age of Empires. I loved Age of Empires. Like, that was a great game. And Pit is a fast-paced card game for 3 to 8 players designed to simulate outcry bidding for commodities. Haven't heard of it. I'm adding to my list of things to research after we hang up today.
Yeah, I've seen that one. It's like a, you know, it's one of those that to me it seems like a travel game, right? It's like easy to travel. Kind of comes in its own case, but I've never played it and didn't know what it was. I'm definitely gonna have to go pick that up and try that.
Did either of you play Roller Coaster Tycoon growing up?
Yes, I did. I loved it.
No, Courtney?
Oh, no, I never played. I remember seeing it, but I never played it.
Oh my goodness. I spent so many hours on that game. And I was privileged enough to have a computer in my home with parents who were like, if the game is if you can make an educational argument for a game, they would probably go get it for like a Christmas or a birthday. So like, that was, my parents were very much like, we don't want like fighting games. We don't want anything with that's not age appropriate. You had to make an argument that it was educational if you were going to get it, which did teach us to produce very persuasive arguments for some games that maybe not so much. Like, we had FIFA in our house, and that was we made an argument that was like a lot of learning about the marketplace and buying and selling and stuff like that. But Roller Coaster Tycoon, you have to manage a theme park. You build it from the ground up. You've got a budget. You've got to create attractions that bring people in. You have to think about your marketing. You have to maintain what you have. You have to keep people happy. And I feel like I learned a lot about entrepreneurship and then just managing a budget from that too. So there are lots of games out there, and parents, don't be afraid to like explore video games, computer games, things on tablets or phones that could have some educational value in there too. Not every game out there is going to like turn your brain to mush.
There's some other items too. It doesn't even just have to be games, right? I know that Danny from the foundation is really good about kind of weaving these topics into normal day life. She talks about like going to the grocery store and starting to talk about like unit pricing and things like that with her kids. Like, hey, which one is a better buy in terms of peanut butter, like the really big jar of peanut butter or the smaller jar of peanut butter? and that kind of things. And I know she talks a lot about, giving her kids like the actual, no kidding, like coins, and saying, okay, like this is the amount that like that jar of peanut butter costs. And so we have this amount, like we're going to pick out whatever boxes of cereal. And so, pick out the number of boxes of cereal that like we can get with this amount in our hands right now. So there are some other things in particular. She really loves the grocery store in terms of teaching some money lessons. I think too, because like your kid can get something out of that, right? Like I am sure, like I don't know how you guys were. Like I was a painful child that every time we went into a grocery store, like I wanted to leave with something in my hands, right? And so it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be frustrated about it as a parent, but it's also an opportunity to like turn that into some really useful lesson. But I was curious, Courtney, since we're like totally sandbagging you with all these questions since you're ahead of us, but I was wondering, like, is there another area where you have been able to like weave money in, kind of like Danny does with the grocery store, that's been like really kind of an easy win for you as a parent?
Yeah, the place where it comes up the most is in any store. Any store, to your point, my daughter's is the exact same way as you were when you were a kid. If money can be spent on something, if there's something in there for her, she wants it. And one of the things that we do is like, okay, if we're going to Target, take money out of your spend bank. Like how much money do you have? How much money do you want to spend today at Target? And so we'll go in there. It's like, okay, you have a limited amount to work with. If you take $30 and you're looking at a toy that's $28.99, we have to have a conversation. Like, I know the price tag says $28.99, but are you going to have enough money for this toy? And the answer is no, because I have to pay sales tax on this. And so we'll get into some calculations, and she's 6. She's not so good where she's doing the percentages.
She's not doing 6% percentage in her head yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I have to work harder. But so that helps. It also teaches you have limited resources and you have to prioritize what's most important. But we always figure out ways that we can use money for math that is beyond the financial skills. Just the numeracy skills are really important. And I mean, selfishly, that's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out, how we can design our curriculum in a way that does help develop some of those other academic skills. Because I actually think, this is one of my secrets, and I think it's a good thing, but I for other people to try this. But the true path to getting financial literacy in schools at all ages is to design curriculum that supports other academic areas. The answer isn't going to be that they incorporate a personal finance class at every age. That's not going to happen. And the politics that are involved in order to make that happen are unbelievable. But how you can do it is you can say, hey, Super Money Kids also helps develop these numeracy skills, and they align with these standards. And so then they're learning math, but they're also learning about money. And so we've been really exploring how to do that. And I've been doing it with my own daughter as well.
Yeah, we ran into the same problem with the ChooseFI curriculum, where at high school, it's like we can reasonably expect there might be a standalone personal finance class and that a teacher might be able to just teach personal finance, and we've got a course for that. But as we went down through middle school and elementary school down to pre-K, it was, how are you going to integrate this into what you're already teaching? Because last thing teachers need is another subject that you need to teach. And we want to try and find ways that it just fits seamlessly in with what's going on already. So Courtney, tell us about the curriculum. Like, what age group does your curriculum serve? Who is it appropriate for? Love to hear a bit more about that before we wrap up.
Yep. So the Super Money curriculum, it's a digital program that can be self-paced or delivered as a group. It is, you log on to a platform. It's 6 lessons that are 30 to 35 minutes each. It's targeted at 1st through 6th grade, ideally. It could work for older ages, but I think the kind of the sweet spot is like 1st through 6th grade. So there's 6 lessons. The first lesson is our Super Money Scavenger Hunt. The Super Money Bank is used as an instructional tool in the program. So they use it every week for each lesson. It starts with the Super Money Scavenger Hunt, where they get familiar with their banks. Then the next 3 lessons aligns with each of the money habits. There's an intro to save, intro to spend, intro to share. Then the 5th lesson is about earning. And so it's our introduction to entrepreneurship. And then in the last lesson, students set a actual savings goal and they create an entrepreneurial idea. Every student that participates gets their own bank. And if they complete all of the assignments, they will also get their Super Money name and certificate. So we refer to our team as like I'm Super Money Court. And you complete the program, you would be Super Money Rob and Super Money Steven. So that's how it works. That's the program, and we all get a kick out of it every time another group completes it. And it's digital, and so it allows for a lot of creativity in terms of scheduling and delivery, and it's short. It won't take up a whole class period or anything like that, because we definitely wanted to keep the attention spans of the audience that we were working with in mind. So we've been really happy about it.
And is the link I have at the bottom where they can find this, supermoneykids.co?
Yep, supermoneykids.co. We have a schools page that talks more about the actual school partnerships. You can also buy your Super Money Bank, your personal Super Money Bank at supermoneykids.co is where you do that. And you can also follow us on all social media platforms at Super Money Kids Co. Or Super Money Kids on Twitter. I think it's the only exception.
Yeah.
But yeah, Super Money Kids Co.
Awesome. And for anyone who is looking for more curriculum on top of that, please check out the ChooseFI curriculum as well. So that's ChooseFIFoundation.org/pre-K-12. All right, Courtney, you have a big event coming up this fall. You were telling me a little bit about this, where it's a fundraising event. I would love to hear more about it, and I'm sure everyone else would too. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so obviously we're always looking for ways to make financial literacy a norm, and also find ways to weave it into our everyday life. And one of the ways that we're raising awareness to financial literacy is through our annual holiday bank drive. So think turkey drive or toy drive, but we're giving away our Super Money Kid Bank. We want to give away 5,000 banks this year. And so if you are a financial institution or a corporation where financial literacy or education is one of your initiatives, we'd love to have a conversation about how you can become a partner in our holiday bank drive, so that we can make financial education more accessible to young people throughout the country. We run the bank drive through the middle of November, the middle of January. And because we're in the holiday season and people are buying gifts and they're thinking about their loved ones, and a lot of people are thinking about how they can just do good in general, we wanted financial literacy to be one of the things that people can support during this season, where people are being really generous. And we also want to help families talk about money when they're spending so much of it. And there are a lot of different values that households talk about, a lot of different traditions that families have during this time of year. And we want one of those traditions to be around having some conversation about money. And our bank drive is one way that you can do that.
And how can people find out more about that? Or if they know somebody, or if they themselves are interested, where can they find that?
Yes, I would. In that instance, I would ask that you email me directly. My email is chale, CHALE @knowledgebank.money. chale@knowledgebank.money. Or if it's easier for you to send us a direct message through our Instagram or Facebook pages, you can also just shoot us a message and we'll follow up with you. And again, it's Super Money Kids Co. through Instagram or Facebook. We should have the marketing up in a digital on our website in the coming month or so. But yeah, we're definitely looking for partners to sponsor that, and also have partners where we can donate the banks to as well.
Yes, we were talking about that for M's for Money when I start doing live events for my book release. Yeah, that we would try and get as many of these banks out to kids as possible. So I'm excited to talk about that with you. And we should see. I think we should put something on the calendar for like mid-November, where like we're starting to build up the holiday season, and we just like maybe have a talk about that. Because I mean, Courtney, you just made you mentioned that word about like the different traditions and customs that go with the holidays, and I feel like that's a great conversation to have about, you know, what are ways that we can make people aware of what the customs are for different families around the country, and then also like how can we tackle this in a way that's not going to destroy people's finances, all the good work that they did from January up to October. How do we not undo that in November and December?
Exactly.
And we'll have to get you back for that, Courtney, if you're up for it.
Oh, I'm definitely up for it.
All right. So guys, this is going to wrap up our ChooseFI Foundation summer series. I am back to school tomorrow. It's my first day back as a teacher, and students are back the following week. I know, it's so sad.
I can't believe we're at the end of the summer, man.
Yeah, I mean, some of you guys aren't back until like after Labor Day, so you probably are like, oh, I got another month still. But yeah, for me, it's over. So the summer series is also coming to an end. If you want to check out any of our past events, so say you're just joining us and you're like, oh, there was some good stuff here, I learned something, shock. I want to go find more. You can go to ChooseFIFoundation.org/events. And that has all of the links to our past webinars. So, I mean, you could just watch them one after another, like it's a podcast series or a YouTube series. They are available on our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel. So the ChooseFI and ChooseFI Foundation YouTube channels are hosting all of our videos as well as the website. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was great having you. I'm glad we got to have this kind of more in-depth conversation about Super Money Kids and what you're doing with your daughter. I have to make a shout out for her. Did she start the podcast yet? Because your daughter was on the Ellen show and got gifted like a whole podcast and recording studio. I'm like, did she start podcasting yet?
We are working on it right now. It has been a crazy summer, and so it is in process. It is in process.
Yeah, awesome. This was a super cute video, by the way, guys. Like, what would they search to find that video?
You know, you can go to the Ellen YouTube channel. And I think if you type father and daughter financial literacy, I think it'll come up.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, everyone. We will let you know when our next webinar series will be, or if we're going to be doing some sporadic ones throughout the fall. We'll certainly let you know about those. Make sure you're going to ChooseFIFoundation.org and signing up for our newsletter so you can just keep up to date with that. Follow ChooseFI Foundation and ChooseFI on Facebook, Instagram, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the best way to make sure you're in the know when our new stuff is coming out. But appreciate you all joining us over the summer. Have a great rest of your summer, and hopefully it's a longer summer than I have left. But we'll see you soon. Bye now.
All right.
Thank you guys for having me.